Hello, Internet. Oops. I'm not sure if this video has started yet. I've got a new interface for the Facebook Live right now. All right, we are live. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Humble and Hustle Studios weekly live video where we talk about the tips and tricks to help you with your digital marketing and planning how to grow your business sustainably online. So I'm Chrisella Herzog. I'm the CEO of Humble and Hustle Studios. And this week we're talking about how we can survive and thrive in this weird new business environment that we're in. So what sparked this topic for me is I'm in a few of business Facebook events, like, all small business owners are. So I'm in a few of these local business groups online, and I'm seeing a lot of conversations from small businesses and small business owners where they're talking about how are we, when can we go back to normal? When can we start opening our businesses again? Um, you know, there's even conversations going on here locally where there's a group planning to get thousands of businesses and business owners together after our stay-at-home orders are lifted, getting people together for some sort of a business fair where businesses can come together and find employees and find do business with each other and that sort of thing. And I think it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what is going to happen with this with this new world that we're in. And I that's why I wanted to talk about this topic today is you need to plan differently if your business is going to survive long term right now. If your plan is to go back to normal in a month, like things magically go back and everything's okay again, like it's, the before time, you're planning to fail because things have fundamentally changed. First of all, the best estimations on how long this is going to last is between 18 months to 2 years. This is not it's going to take a long time. What we'll see happen is, so right now we're in this area of stay-at-home orders where we're all, we all have to shut down our businesses and that sort of stuff. The stay-at-home orders will ease as the cases go down, but once the cases go down and people start going back outside and going back to things like normal, the cases are going to go right back up. And then we're going to go back to stay-at-home orders, and we're going to go back to these restrictions on being able to interact with each other in public. And this is going to keep happening, this cycle of up and down, restrictions eased, restrictions put back on, until we have a vaccine. And that could take 18 months to 2 years. And that's not just me saying that. This is some of the largest companies in the world know that this is happening and they're planning for it. And for example, that idea of the chart going up and down, that is from a chart developed by JP Morgan. That's them forecasting how long it's going to take for the economy to go back to any semblance of what we understood to be normal before. Companies like Microsoft have already canceled all of their in-person events for the next year until summer 2021. It's not going back to normal in a month. Disney is currently in a fight. Like, I was reading an article about how Bob Iger is retiring soon, and he was expecting to go out with, Disney stock at the highest it's been, going out on top. And now he's in a fight to keep Disney alive because so much of their revenue comes from the in-person parks, and the in-person parks are going to really struggle until we get a vaccine. Another example, if you're local to Utah, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has canceled all of their youth group events through 2021. And if you are local to Utah, you know what a big deal that is for the church to cancel those in-person gatherings like that. So it's frustrating to me that all of these small businesses are planning right now for things to just go back to normal soon. Like this is like just go back to normal, like things are going to be okay in a month or so, and they're not making contingency plans. But the biggest companies in the world who have access to all of this economic data, all of these trends, and can honestly probably call up an epidemiologist or two and figure out, like, to do some of this planning. They have the data, and they're saying they're making plans for things to not go back to normal for a long, long time. And so right now it's been really frustrating to me to hear small businesses not making those same plans and not listening to what the market trends around them are saying. Um, Beyond these next 2 years of what this pandemic is estimated to last, this is a fundamental break in how we do business. And I think you need to look to companies that are working in China to understand that. There are companies that build business space in China, so in China, people are starting to go back to work now. They're starting to open up offices a little bit more, but they're only being able to going back to work in office spaces where um, office spaces have fundamentally changed. Um, so, for example, we are used right now, the much maligned open office space, where people are sitting. There's one desk here and one desk here and one desk here and one desk here. You send people back to work in that sort of environment, and you're going to have the virus spread through your office, and you're right back in the same situation that you were in before, except now all your employees are dealing with healthcare costs, and you've lost all of that labor. So there are companies working in China, multinational companies that also work in the US and work in China, that build office spaces. They build out office spaces. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of this company that I was reading about, but I was reading about this in a Fast Company article. I'll try to find it and share it in the comments after this. They are changing how office spaces are designed, and it's a radical change. They are spreading desks out more. And they're putting visual clues around the office to remind people to keep their distance. So each desk is surrounded by a circle in the carpet. The carpet is designed with a circle on the floor to remind people to keep that 6 feet away from a person who's sitting at the desk. If you walk up to somebody, you have to stay outside that circle to keep that 6 foot distance. So that therefore desks have to be 6 feet away. You can't have this office space with a lot of people pushed together now. And so for a lot of small businesses, that's going to be a problem because office space is not cheap. So if you are planning on getting a smaller office space and putting a lot of people in there, it's not going to work anymore. So you have to really rethink you have to rethink even the physical environment long term for how you are going to bring your employees together. Do you do that, or do you just move your employees to a system where they work from home? Or do you move your employees, or do you have this plan where you have half of your workforce coming in on certain days and the other half of your workforce comes in on other days? So you are rotating when people are working from home. All of these things are already happening in China, and they're going to be happening here next. Another thing that's happening in the office is you have more of these visual clues directing people where to walk. And this is something that these office space designers are taking clues from hospitals. So in hospitals, they have, if you've ever noticed this, when nurses are walking the floor, they walk one direction around the floor. They don't walk the other direction, they walk one direction around the floor. And so now office space designers are incorporating that into their office designs, because when you walk one direction around the floor, it manages how diseases are spread. So that's going to be incorporated into our space now. Do you have that flexibility in your office space to be able to incorporate something like that? Do you have in your office space, do you have something where you have an air filter? that circulates the air. Most offices, and this doesn't get studied too often, indoor air in America is terrible and it's really not good for our health, but it doesn't get studied as often as outdoor air pollution does. So, do you have in your office some sort of an air circulating system that also catches the viruses, catches pollutants, and pulls that out of the air that's being pushed back into it? Or are you putting all of your employees into a space where they're breathing out this stuff and then it's just being recirculated through your office? So you have to start thinking about physical changes to your work environment long term, as well as um, physical changes to your work environment, as well as your products that you're offering, as well as how you fundamentally interact with your employees. And this is something that is going to last long term. These changes have slowly been coming down the pipeline for years, but what these economic analysts are saying is that this pandemic has accelerated those changes by a decade. And for a lot of small businesses, that's really difficult to adapt to. Larger businesses might have the budget to be able to adapt to those things, but a lot of small businesses don't. And a lot of small businesses owners aren't even thinking about their businesses in these terms. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about some ways you can, besides like thinking about all of that sort of stuff, generally, what are some things you can do to stay alive right now and to stay alive long term in your business? The first thing that I'm going to, the first big thing that you need to do to stay alive right now and to thrive long term is you have to stay visible. I was talking with a business coach that I work with a lot, and she's coming out with a podcast soon that I'm very excited to listen to. But she interviewed women business owners who started their businesses before the Great Recession, before 2008, and survived. Their businesses survived during that and even thrived during that, when a lot of other small businesses were closing down. And the number one thing that she said all these women said was essential to them surviving was that they stayed visible. So, what does that mean? Right now, I think a lot of business owners are not thinking about staying visible in their business. They're not thinking about a marketing plan. They're not thinking about outreach. The economy's been really good for a while. So they're kind of still in this mindset of, business will come to me. And that's not going to be possible anymore. It's just not. You're going to have to really put yourself out there for for the business to come to you. And this has always been true to some extent, but it's even more so during bad economic times. During good economic times, there's enough of there's enough out there that, kind of things slosh your way and you're okay. But when times are lean, you really have to work for it. And so that's the point that we're at now, is you really have to stay visible and you really have to get out there and talk to people. So an example of this is happening right now. In Utah, we have the stay-at-home orders. Restaurants are shut down, but the state has given them permission to do takeout, to go, delivery type things, so that they do have some sort of, some sort of income coming in during this time. Well, so I noticed this happening in my own experience. I started making a list of all the little restaurants that I wanted to get food from so I can support them. And I noticed that my list started to be very much influenced by who I was seeing post online. Um, there was one little business that I had kind of like abstractly thought of and be like, oh yeah, I should get food from them. And then it kind of left my mind. I didn't write them down. And then they started posting their to-go stuff. They started posting every single day on Instagram, on Facebook. They started posting, hey, we're doing to-go stuff. Here's what we've got. Here's how you order. Here's our new link that we just posted. Here is our phone number. Every day they were posting something. And at that point I was like, oh yeah, I need to put them on my list. So I went to their menu, wrote down what I wanted, and we did order from them. So you have to stay visible right now. You really have to get out there. There's a lot of noise happening right now because there's a lot of noise from the news. People are still worried about what's happening as far as their health, as far as their businesses, as far as their local economies. So there's a lot of worry and a lot of noise out there. So you have to get through that noise. You have to work harder than you did before to really get in front of your customers. So figure out where your customers are and be really consistent about getting your message in front of them. If you do B2B business, get on LinkedIn and start posting. Not from your business page, from your personal page. Get on there and start posting. If you are, if you have a couple of clients that you've worked with that you haven't really heard of, send them an email to check in. Just say, hey, I know things have been rough lately. I know it's been a little bit crazy. I just want to check in, see how you're doing. And if you need anything, give me a call. Do that with previous clients too. Like, people think right now, and I was in a conversation with some business owners yesterday, people think right now, oh, it's not worth marketing right now because everybody's cutting back their budgets and nobody's spending money. But that isn't true. If that were true, Zoom's stock price would not be through the roof. Microsoft and Slack, all of their stock prices are through the roof because businesses are still making purchases from them. Businesses still need services. There are still businesses operating. Even during the Great Depression, there were still businesses operating. So there is still business out there. There is still money to be spent, and businesses still need your services. People still need your services. So make sure that you are getting out there and getting in front of people and reminding people of what you offer, because right now it's going to be the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. So just make sure you're getting out there and being that squeaky wheel. Adjust my camera here just a little bit. All right. So that's about staying visible, and that's about and that is going to be advice that's really crucial right now, but really crucial over the next few years as well. So if you don't have a marketing strategy yet, get one, get it decided, and stick to it. Like, be very consistent about what you're going to do to get out there and be visible. I really cannot stress that enough. I know I'm a marketer, and I'm like, when you have a hammer, everything's a nail. But this is how businesses survived previous economic downturns, is they got out there and they reminded people about their services. They reminded people about it. Like, it's really tempting to just like curl up in a cocoon right now and hope for the best, but this is the time when you really have to hustle. I hate using that word, even though it's part of my business, but like, it's the time where you really have to get out there and get in front of people. The other thing that you have to do right now is you have to stay resilient. I talked a bit at the beginning about how things are going to be changing in our business environment long term. But, when you're dealing with these waves of, shutdowns and opens, you have to be able to jump back and forth between those sort of things. You have to. If it, like, so now you kind of know like what the shutdown is going to be like for your business. Now you need to figure out, how are you going to survive those swings back and forth for the next couple of years? How are you going to adapt to whatever this new economic model looks like? You've got to figure out how to adapt right now. The businesses that are going to survive this are the ones that adapt quickly and creatively. So if you have an in-person business, I'm going to use the example of a photographer. If you have an in-person business, being a photographer, yeah, like if you're taking people's photos, that requires that the people are actually there in front of you. So that's a little bit of a problem. So what are you going to do if all of a sudden you can't be there in front of people? You have to adapt. When the stay-at-home orders ease up, then yes, you can get out there and start taking photos of people. But, wear a mask, maybe get like a longer lens so you can shoot from a little farther away. You've got to think a little bit about how to adapt those in-person experiences. But then eventually the stay-at-home orders are going to go right back in place because the cases start going up. So what are you going to do then? Are you just going to like go back and lose that business? What you have to do is you have to find other streams of income that are going to work in this new sort of environment. You've got to be adaptable. You've got to diversify your revenue streams, and you've got to figure out um, how you can shift back and forth between these two extremes. So, for example, with the example of the photography business, okay, all of a sudden the stay-at-home orders are back and you can't do photos of people again. What do you do? Do you just stop taking those orders again? Or what you can do is you can offer a photo editing service. Like, people are still out there, like they still have photos that they've taken with their families. Maybe they've gotten some raw footage of or photos that they have taken themselves, for example, of their families, things like that. Like, people are still have lives and they're still like taking photos of their families. Offer a photo editing service where you get this raw footage and you fix it up the same way that you do for your clients that you took the photos of. You don't need to be in person to do that. Another big stream of revenue that I think is going to be really big for the photography business right now is, how do you take a photo, like a good self photo or a good business type photo, yourself with your phone? So start a photography course that's geared towards small business owners who still need product photos, still need headshots, that sort of thing, and teach them how to do it. So so you can't take the mindset that that sort of thing is going to take away from your other business opportunities, because right now you have, like, if you're at stay at home and you can't see people, you have nothing. You might as well have something. And yes, the demand will eventually come back for your in-person services, but you have to adapt in the meantime to what is changing here. You have to be creative about how you're going to adapt. So if there is a service that you do that's already part of your regular in-person services that can be switched to being not in person, even if it's just like one aspect of your overall services, think about how to start marketing that service itself alone and try to figure out how to bring that online so that you have some sort of revenue throughout these ups and downs that we're going to be going through. Um, so that's the creative part of it, but you also need to figure out the adapting part of it. And because we're going to be going through these ups and down swings fairly often, probably every few months, you have to adapt fast. So if you have a lot of overhead, you're a big clunky business because you're in person, you've got to figure out how to adapt those services really quickly, and be really nimble about it. So you've got to stay lean. You've got to figure out, like, what overhead do you absolutely need? What do you not need? What can be cut? For example, like for the example of the office space, do you really need an office space? So, like, this is a conversation that we're having in my business right now. We had been looking at expanding into a larger office space because, I'm starting to hire people, and we have is we have been kind of thinking about, like, this is the next step, obviously, like have an office space where people come together and work in the same room, sort of thing. Is that the obvious next step? Is it really? Do we need that? Everybody's getting more used to working from home now. It's kind of a thing. Maybe none of us need an office space now. Maybe we can take that more expensive desk that we have and downgrade it to just a co-working space and meet once a week. There is a business in my co-working space where they have people who are kind of all over the Wasatch Front, and they meet in the middle of where everybody lives at this co-working space that I work out of once a week, and they spend all day working together. But then the rest of the time they're remote. So if you're already thinking about, working remotely, figuring out how to bring people in on like a staggered schedule for their health and safety, maybe you move your entire business model to that. I do think co-working spaces are going to have to figure out, like, how to actually, like, um, separate out people a little bit better, so that they don't become infection vectors. But right now, like it's a really good opportunity for you to consider is moving to more of a co-working space type thing and not having to pay for the overhead of a large office. Um, so you're going to end up having to pivot very quickly. Like I said, like these trends have been accelerated by a decade or more. And so all of a sudden these changes that have been slowly integrating into our business lives are now all of a sudden here. You have to adapt, you have to adapt quickly because it's here. The change is here. And if you think that things are going to go back to normal in a month and you're going to be able to just go back to the way things were, it's not going to work out for your business. All right. So that's my little my little rant today. I hope some of those suggestions were helpful. If you have questions, if you have thoughts about how to adapt your business, how to start building out that marketing strategy so that you can stay visible in your business, leave a comment here. Send me a message on Facebook, on LinkedIn, any of those platforms, and let's talk. I'd love to help out some more. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I will see you next week.